Welcome to another deep dive. We get a lot of requests, but this one really piqued our interest.
Oh yeah, this one's fascinating.
You sent us the story of Tobit, and you're curious about, well, a lot of things. The historical context, how people deal with, well, really tough times. The stuff of life, right?
Absolutely. And the story of Tobit really delivers on that front.
So we're diving in. Our goal, I guess, is to sort of extract the core of Tobit's early story.
Yeah, focusing on his character, the world he lived in during, the Assyrian captivity, not just what happened, but why it mattered.
Exactly. So the story starts with a family tree. Tobit, son of Tobiel, son of Aniel, like a whole lineage going back to the tribe of Naphtali.
Yeah.
It's detailed,
Oh yeah, and that's not just filler. They're really grounding him in a specific heritage, a specific place. This tribe, the tribe of Naphtali, they were one of the northern tribes of Israel. And then you have the geographic details. It mentions he was taken from Thisbe, a place in Upper Galilee, and it gets even more specific, south of Kadesh Naphtali, west of Asher, north of Fogor. I mean, they really want to paint a picture for you.
I guess for us, we don't know those places off the top of our heads, but back then...
Oh, it would have been instantly recognizable, like placing him on a map, in a community, in history. And all of this, of course, is happening during the reign of Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria. Huge historical moment.
And this is where it gets really interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the tribe of Naphtali, they had this whole history of separating from Jerusalem, from that central place of worship. They were known for doing their own thing, like offering sacrifices to the golden calf, that whole deal that King Jeroboam started.
Yeah. Right. The text even says, "The entire tribe of my ancestor Naphtali broke away from the house of David and from Jerusalem." Talk about a split. And this really illustrates the religious climate at the time. You had these alternative worship sites popping up all over Galilee.
Tobit, he's different.
Yeah, he stands out. Despite all of that, he remained loyal to Jerusalem in the traditional ways. It really highlights his character. He's sticking to his beliefs, even when they're not the norm in his immediate circle.
And it's not just like a passive thing here.
Yeah.
The text mentions he was super active in all the Jerusalem stuff, traveling for festivals, bringing the first fruits, the firstborn of his animals, tithes, all those detailed practices.
Oh, absolutely. This is tangible faith in action. He brought the tithes from his livestock, even the very first wool shorn from his sheep. And it gets even more specific. The text mentions the second tithe, which he converted to money and spent in Jerusalem for, get this, 6 straight years. And then there's the third year tithe, which was meant for the most vulnerable orphans, widows, converts. This isn't just ticking boxes, it's a way of life for him.
So, before all the craziness of the Assyrian exile, Tobit's life is really shaped by this strong personal faith, even when it didn't quite match up with everyone around him. Then boom, he's taken to Nineveh. I mean, talk about a culture shock.
Huge transition. He's in a totally foreign land, unfamiliar customs, different food. And here's where we see that unwavering commitment again. The text says he refused to eat Gentile food. Seems like a small thing, maybe, but...
It's a big deal, right?
Absolutely. It's about maintaining his identity, his religious laws, even in this completely new environment. It's a way to hold on to who he is in a place that wants to make him something else. I mean, were there any exceptions to those rules back then?
Or was it like a hard and fast line?
Well, there were probably varying interpretations, but for Tobit, it seems pretty fundamental. These dietary laws, they were like a daily reminder of his covenant with God. Interestingly, this commitment might have actually worked in his favor.
How so?
Well, the text says, "Because I was mindful of God with all my heart, the Most High granted me favor and status with Shalmaneser," the king himself, right?
And that favor led to a pretty significant position, too. He became a purchasing agent for the king. For someone in captivity, that's a pretty big deal. I mean, it shows they recognize his integrity, his faithfulness, even though he was, one of the conquered people. But do you think that favor, maybe, caused any problems with the other captives?
That's a really good point. It's possible, right?
Wait,
His elevated status could have created some distance or even resentment. Imagine having to navigate that social dynamic, balancing his responsibilities to the king with his loyalty to his community.
Yeah, that's tricky.
Totally. But this job, this purchasing agent role, it took him to media. He even deposited a large sum of silver, 10 talents, with a kinsman named Gabal. Smart guy, thinking ahead.
But this period of, relative stability, it didn't last.
Right. Unfortunately, no. Shalmaneser dies, his son Sennacherib takes over, and things get a lot more volatile. Travel to media becomes dangerous, and suddenly Tobit's cut off from those funds he deposited. It shows how vulnerable things were, even for someone who seemed to have found a good position.
And it's during this time, this really unstable time, that we see another side of Tobit. His deep sense of charity, his commitment to his community.
This is where his actions really speak volumes. The text describes him providing food for the hungry, clothing for those who needed it. But what's really striking is his bravery in burying Israelites who'd been killed and left unburied outside the walls of Nineveh. It's a direct act of defiance, a risk, especially under Sennacherib.
Who was, let's be honest, not exactly a benevolent ruler. The text mentions he was killing a lot of Israelites. So Tobit's putting himself in danger to ensure these people receive a proper burial. It's powerful stuff. What do you think motivated him to take such a risk?
It's probably a mix of things. His faith certainly emphasized the importance of proper burial, but beyond that, it's about solidarity with his people. A refusal to let them be dehumanized, even in death. It's resistance rooted in compassion.
But of course, this didn't go unnoticed. Someone reported him to Sennacherib, and he had to flee, go into hiding, lost everything except for his wife and son. It's a huge blow, especially after that period of relative favor.
It's a dramatic turn of events, and it all stems from his commitment to doing what he believed was right.
Thankfully, the story doesn't end there. There's another twist in this political saga.
Yeah, Sennacherib ends up getting assassinated by his own sons, who then flee. Esarhaddon, another son, takes the throne. And this is where Tobit's fortunes start to change.
It turns out Tobit had a relative, Ahikar, who was in a pretty high position in Esarhaddon's court. Second in command, actually, overseeing all the finances and administration. I mean, talk about a well-connected family member.
Right place, right time, and Ahikar, being in this position of power, he's able to advocate for Tobit and eventually helps him return to Nineveh. It goes to show how important those family connections can be, especially in times of exile.
So to sum it up, Tobit's early experiences in captivity, they show us a man of deep faith, a strong sense of community, and incredible courage. He held on to his beliefs even when they weren't popular. He showed charity to those around him, and he took a huge risk to bury the dead, even when it meant putting himself in danger.
Exactly. You wanted to understand resilience, to see how people navigated these turbulent times. And Tobit, he exemplifies that. He stayed true to himself, even when everything around him was in chaos. The details about his religious life, his bravery, they give us a glimpse into the challenges and choices people faced back then.
It really makes you think, though, about those personal sacrifices. How do you maintain your morals when the whole system seems against you? What impact can those small acts of courage have in the face of injustice? It's something to ponder.
It's a great question, and it's one that the story of Tobit really makes us grapple with.
So thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the early part of this incredible story.